If your to-do list is full, but you don't know if you're moving in the right direction, this video is for you. Over the last 7 years of building my company, I've probably read High Performance Habits by Brendon Burchard a dozen times, each time focusing on a different habit depending on what I need most. Today is part 1 of a 6-part series where I break down each of the habits and how I apply them as a founder. In this video, we're starting with the first, seek clarity. And if you want to follow along with the series, I've created a free 30-day habit accelerator with prompts to help you figure out where to start and what to focus on. It's linked in the description. According to Brendon, high performers aren't actually built different. They just practice specific habits, and they're habits anyone can learn. I've coached a lot of founders through habit building, and the biggest trap I see, and the one I've personally fallen into many times, is trying to do everything at once. That's why this series is designed to help you get specific and focus on one habit at a time and apply what actually matters for the season that you're in. So let's start with the most foundational habit, seek clarity. Clarity is knowing who you are, what you want, and where you're going. Now, that might seem obvious, but Brendon explains that high performers are able to respond to those questions without hesitation. Knowing these answers is the difference between reacting to your day or your life and intentionally designing it. Without clarity, you end up feeling stuck, scattered, or chasing goals that aren't actually important to you. Most people don't realize they're lacking clarity until they have a midlife crisis and question everything in a waterfall of destruction. But not you. You know that clarity isn't about having it all figured out. It's about having a North Star and knowing the answers to a few specific questions. The first step in knowing these answers and seeking clarity is creating a vision of your future self. Brendon lays out a simple framework for defining who you are now and who you want to become, and how you want to get there. He calls this the Future 4. It starts with the category of self. Who do you want to be today, a year from now, 5 years from now? He recommends choosing 3 aspirational words that describe the types of traits you want to embody. These words become a reference point for how you think, act, and show up, especially under pressure. The second category is social, and the question is, how do you want others to perceive you? This is where you choose 3 words that define how you want to show up in relationships. It could be curious, inspiring, confident, whatever fits the kind of interactions that you want to have. The third category is skills, and the question is, which specific skills do you need to improve right now? Brendon encourages his readers to identify their primary field of interest and choose 3 skills that will have the biggest impact on our success. He shows that high performers focus on which skills actually matter for their field of interest and developing those skills intentionally. When I started Perimeter, I thought I had to be good at everything, which is somewhat true when you're first getting started. But after reading this book, I realized how important it was to specialize in the skills that really impact my business and my role as CEO. One of those skills has been public speaking, and that skill has helped me with sales and pitching, which are things that I'm responsible for basically every day. The last question for the Future 4 is, who do you want to serve? Knowing who benefits from your work will help you focus on what really matters when you're feeling overwhelmed or not connected to a sense of purpose. Used together, these 4 categories create the foundation for knowing who you want to be. And knowing who you want to be in the future will shape how you operate in the present. Once you have clarity on who you're becoming, the next step is identifying how you want to feel, not just after achieving a goal, but while you're working towards it. Brendon says that instead of relying on circumstances to determine how they feel, high performers cultivate the feelings they want to experience. It took me a long time to see how the story I tell myself directs my emotions, but one of the biggest rewires I've done around this was with my coach, Danny, and it took me like 6 months. Every time I would bring him a challenge from work, he would say, "This is awesome, you love challenges." Now, every time a big challenge comes up, I hear Danny's voice in the back of my mind saying, "This is awesome, I love challenges." And that story makes me feel confident and empowered as opposed to anxious and overwhelmed. And when we make decisions from a place of feeling empowered instead of fearful, we make much better decisions. Here are 2 prompts from High Performance Habits that will help identify the feelings you want to cultivate. The first is, the feelings I want to experience more of in life include, and then the next time I feel a negative emotion come up, The thing I'm going to say to myself is, now that you know who you want to become and how you want to feel, the last part of this chapter is to define what's actually meaningful to you, so that your calendar and your to-do list reflect those answers as to running on autopilot. Brendon argues that knowing what's meaningful to you is actually more important than motivation and willpower, because if you're clear on what matters and you've created a plan around it, you're far more likely to follow through on the days where you're feeling completely drained or unmotivated. 3 questions you can ask yourself to develop this clarity are: which activities bring me the most meaning? Which activities should I stop doing because they don't bring me any sense of meaning? And if I was going to add more activities that create meaning in my life, what would they be? Simply knowing these answers will move you in the right direction, because even your subconscious will be in on it. But if you don't know the answers, you're not going to give yourself a clear path to follow, which means staying busy but not necessarily making progress. Brendon wants us to know that clarity isn't something high performers stumble into. It's something they create. And we can do the same thing by asking ourselves the questions we talked about today. So if you want to join a group of us developing these habits, download the free 30-day habit accelerator in the description. It includes space for reflection and helps you get clear on what to focus on next. If this was helpful, subscribe so you don't miss chapter 2 on generating energy. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you next Thursday.